Presented by Church Tech U, it's the ProPresenter Show. On today's show, Understanding Layers in ProPresenter 7. Hi, and welcome again to the ProPresenter Show. This is the show where I teach you all about ProPresenter. My name's Paul Allen Clifford. And before we get started, if you're confused about the metaphor of layers or you're having trouble explaining it to someone else, go ahead, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff with the video. So, one thing that makes ProPresenter different from PowerPoint or Keynote or Google Slides, any of those, is the metaphor of layers. And if you don't get this, then you'll just be utterly confused about ProPresenter. So I thought that today we would take a look at it and see if I couldn't explain it a little bit better than maybe it's been explained before. So here we are in ProPresenter, and the first thing that you should know is if we go over here to the right hand side, these are in layer order, these clear buttons, bottom to top. So in general, you can think of the video input, then the media layer, then the slides layer, then the announcements layer, then the props layer, and then the messages layer. But there are two other layers that are not listed here. So let me tell you a little bit about those, and maybe the metaphor that I'm about to share will help you understand. So imagine I'm an older guy, 48 as I'm recording this, 49 at the end of the year. So I remember a time when we used overhead transparencies. And if you don't know what an overhead transparency is, back in the day before they had projectors that projected images from a computer onto a screen, or inexpensive TVs that could produce a high resolution image, there was what was called an overhead projector. And an overhead projector basically just projected light. So there was like a table in front of the person that was using it, and then that would project light up and then through a mirror and a lens onto a screen behind them. So in order to show anything whatsoever, because otherwise it was just kind of a square of light, they had totally transparent plastic sheets. So this is one right here. I've got a bar on it, and that will become apparent why I've got that. But just imagine that it's just a plastic sheet. I've got this in a screen protector here, but it's just a plastic sheet with a black bar printed on it. That black bar could just as easily be text as it is this black bar. Okay, so that's what an overhead transparency sheet was if you're not as old as I am. So now imagine you can look through these, that instead of just one, we had multiples, and they're stacked on top of one another. That is what layers are like in ProPresenter. So the topmost layer is the masks layer, and I've got another tutorial on that that I'll link below. So we've got the masks layer, then we've got just all kinds of other layers underneath it, and the bottommost layer is the background color layer. Now, in most situations, that background color is either going to be black or transparent. And if you have a transparent background color and it's not overlaid over something else outside of ProPresenter, it will show up as black just as well. So that's those other two layers. The bottommost is a background color layer, and I'll show you where that is, and the topmost is the masks layer, and I'll show you where that is. So let me really quick, I'm going to pull that out to the side here, and make sure that these are in order. I really should have done this before I got started. Grab the wrong one. Okay, so starting at the bottommost layer, we have a background color. Just to make it clear, I just have a white piece of paper. Just as easily be a black piece of paper or no piece of paper, you know, and transparent. So that's the background color. That's the first layer. Above that, we have the live video layer. Oh, look, it's me. So think of that as live video. Above that, we have the media layer, and this is a still from a motion background that we have from our friends at Church Motion Graphics right there. And then above that, we have the slides layer. Now, this is where you spend most of your time, but notice that the slides layer is transparent. So we've got the words. I've got a black bar underneath these, but it is the words. And so you're looking through the transparent layer, and you might be showing the media layer underneath it, or you might be showing the live video layer underneath it, or you might be showing just the background color layer underneath it. So that's the difference between those different layers. But as I say, that is not all of the layers. We could also add on top of that the props layer. Now the props layer is very flexible. It can do a lot of stuff, and for your live stream you might want your church's logo. So I've got the Church Tech U logo right here. Same thing as that. So maybe you put that on top, and then above that we have the messages layer, and here I've put a countdown. So we've got that, and then above that I have the masks layer. So I'm going to put that upside down, and I'll tell you why here in just a second. So those are all the layers. As you're looking at ProPresenter, you're looking at them from the side, but what shows up on the screen is as if you're looking at them top down. Each layer is unaffected by the layers above it and below it. So if at any time I want to remove the masks layer, I can do that. If I want to remove the messages layer, I can do that. And look, I still have the props layer and the slides layer right there with the background. Oh, I want to get rid of the background? No problem. I can just find that layer right there and remove it. And when I remove the background layer, then look, the layer underneath it, the live video layer, is visible. If I wanted to remove the live video layer, oops, wrong one. If I wanted to remove the live video layer, yep, I can just pull that out of there, and that would leave the background color layer. And there's no reason why I can't, without affecting the other layers, I couldn't swap out one slides layer for another slides layer. Now, you see how hard all this is. This is all done with the software just by clicking on things, which is a lot easier than juggling all these different transparencies, which is why it was such a good thing when LCD projectors and other data projectors came onto the scene back when they did. So if we go back over here into ProPresenter, let me show you that to change the color of the screen, we can go to Screens, Configure Screens, and this is the screen that's showing up in the preview. Notice I have this unchecked, so this is actually transparent, but as I said, if I'm not putting it on top of something in another piece of software, then, or with the video switcher, then it shows up as black. but I could absolutely change it to that color if I wanted to. Um, One thing that I did was I left my key on earlier, so you were actually looking at me through the background layer just a second ago, and that's important to know. Here, let me take that key off. So there we go. Now it shows here. So I've got this background color. It's kind of difficult to change the background color, and quite frankly, you wouldn't do that most of the time. One thing that some people do, though, is I don't think I've got one. Okay. One thing that some people do is they'll uh, change this background color, and my color picker is on another screen, to like a chroma key green. So if you have a video switcher that removes green so that you can have transparency, this is where I would do it. So that's where you would do it, and this would be kind of the background that you would probably set up and not change very often. So that's the background color. Next layer we have is the live video layer, and I'm showing you the live video layer. I have 5 inputs that I've added into ProPresenter, but none of them are connected right now, but we can change those. And that's, notice how this is very much right at the bottom is where you can change all that. And right at the bottom of the video input of the clear buttons is the video input button. Next we have the media layer, and so let me click on that, and that is of course above the video input layer. So here we have this. I've got these for announcement slides, but I've also got some other stuff here, like this is the exact same video that I was showing you a still from on my printed transparency. So that is my background. Now I go above here to my slides area. So let me find a service that, yeah, here. So notice that I can change these at any time, and that's analogous to just switching out the overhead transparency. So notice that when you click on one, it gets rid of the other, and vice versa. The next layer above that, I didn't show this to you, but it's the announcements layer, and it does exactly the same thing as the slides layer. So you can interact with it that way. You can just decide which one you want to do, and to change the regular slides layer to an announcement layer, you just click on this little target here and change that to announcements, and then click on it again and you can change it back to presentation. So that's another layer above that. So these two basically exactly the same, except that this one is on top of that one. So I use that in all my tutorials on this TV. So that's why as I'm doing stuff here, I'm actually using the same version of ProPresenter on the same machine, etc. But it doesn't generally affect it because that's the announcement layer. So you might notice that this is kind of that dulled out reddish color all the time in my tutorials, and that's why. Above that we have the props layer, and you interact with those down here. So let me hide my picture-in-picture. So I have all these props, and one thing that is cool about the props layer is that unlike the slides layer, when you put in one prop, so this was from a Family Feud game here, it doesn't automatically clear the other one. So I can put these on in any order, and I can remove them in any order if I want to. So that's the props layer. A lot of people use the props layer just as their default, hey, I need to do something layer. I want to encourage you, because it's the most versatile layer, not to use it for just anything. So if you can use the announcements layer, if you can use the slides layer, if you can use the messages layer, use that instead. Next, we have the messages layer, and that is right there. Again, let me hide myself. And so you can add different messages. There's a way, if you're playing a game, to have scores show up in the messages layer using variables if you're using companion from BitFocus. What I tend to use it for is for countdowns. So this is the way that you did it in ProPresenter, I think 3 on, and they just added the ability to do it with props and slides layer in ProPresenter 7. So I tend to use that. Also, nursery number, if little Johnny needs mommy or daddy, that's another great use. So this is a text only layer. So that's why I would use that for that information. The announcements layer is, or not the announcements, the messages layer is for messages to the people in the congregation and the audience. So it's not for messages to people on stage. That's a different function altogether. So we've talked about the background color, the live video, the media layer, the slides layer, the announcement layer, the props layer, and the messages layer. And I told you there was one more layer, the masks layer. And to get to that, we go to screens and then edit looks. And you add a mask up here. You click on the Ghostbusters symbol next to the word mask for whichever screen you're using. I've got 4 screens right now, plus another 2 that are my stage screens. So I could do this. I can add a new mask or edit masks or change it to none. And you can switch between masks by just switching between these looks presets. So you might be wondering, why would I have a mask? Well, there are 2 good use cases that I could think of off the top of my head. One is for environmental projection. You're projecting over, let's say, the entire room, or if you're at Disney World, maybe it's Cinderella's castle. Either way, and you want to mask off the rest of the space. Well, you can do that with the masks layer. Another good use case is if you've got a choir in front, and maybe you don't always have a choir, but on occasion you do. But the bad thing is the people on the back row, usually the basses, their heads would be where the bottom of the screen is. No problem, you lift up the screen so that it's above their head, but there's still stuff projecting on them. Well, just use the masks layer and mask that out. So that's why I had a black bar on that topmost layer, so that you can mask that off. So that's kind of a high-level overview of the different layers in ProPresenter 7. Let me say one thing that does sometimes cause some confusion, though. You can put media on other layers other than the media layer. So if you go into Edit Slide and you put a picture on that slide, even though it's on the media layer, or even though it is media, it is not on the media layer. So the layers are where things are located kind of by default, but that doesn't mean you can't put stuff different places. So props, of course, can be words, they can be shapes, they can be pictures, they can be video. Any of those things can be on the props layer. Messages, primarily text, maybe some shapes that are drawn as well. Slides should be primarily text, maybe some shapes that go along with it, and the media layer should be media. So it should be images or videos, and that's where you should normally play that stuff. There are reasons to put it on the slides layer, but keep in mind that just as the text on the slides layer goes away when you click on another slide, any media that's on that slide will go away when you click on another slide. So if you want a persistent background, you would have to put it on the same slide, and if it's a video, it would start over. So that's why we have the media layer underneath it that's unaffected by the slides layer. So that's some of the perhaps confusing things about slides in ProPresenter 7. If you like this content, I bet you'd like my ProPresenter 7 Quick Start course. So head on over to TDM.fyi Pro 7 Quick. Give me your name and email address, and I'll make a login for you so you can take that class for free. Normally I charge $29 for it, but just because you give me that information and let me make the login for you, I'll do it for free. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford from TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com, reminding you to go out and change eternity.